Big black walk around. 2006 Ford F350 6.0, updated towing mirrors, lookout, light bar, slip-in bed, all four corners, power stop brakes, FX4 off-road package. Yeah, right. I mean, it's a work truck, man. It gets beat. But it takes all the beatings that I've given to it and asks for more every single year, and I give it to it. And yeah, I know it's Dorman, but it was the only thing that I really needed. I mean, all it is just a cover. I mean, how can you go wrong? Looks good to me. It's stamped steel. What do you expect? It's got a magnet on it, made in China. If you want the part number for that Dorman right there, so you got 697704. And that is, again, for the Sterling 10.5 on the Fords. And then I've got my 75W140 synthetic gear lube for the rear end. And then, obviously, Ford Motorcraft additive friction modifier. So, I think we're good to go. Shouldn't take much to take this cover off. So what I'm going to do, I do want to go ahead and kind of scrape off some stuff. So I've got a brush, and I got my Husky scraper, which I use all the time. Slide this forward, got my tray under there just to catch some of the garbage, but just go ahead and kind of like clean up some of the stuff and all the chunky stuff, and yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's a 13 millimeter, so yeah, that's easy. Use this one, but I mean, you can already smell it. I just slide the drain pan in place, and let's see what we got for oil coming out of here. Got all nice chunks just coming out of there. So what I'm going to do, now lure it to that point. You can see the fluid kind of leaking out right now. I'm going to just pull these out, and I'm going to leave a couple of the top ones in place. That's a beautiful thing. You just got to be careful because you want to put your hand on there, because if you don't, the way it releases could just kind of like release all over your hand. Oops, I moved that camera out of the way. I don't know. Yep, there it goes. I'm trying to waste my camera again. Tell ya, I gotta use something else. So I'm gonna attack it from the side here. Just get that in there and just keep giving it like little pries here and there. Again, we aren't using this cover, so once this thing goes, like I said, I'm glad to see that. There we go. Move this last bolt here. A beauty right there. A beauty right there. So this is the only thing too about working outside, is that any like little anything of wind, and it's going everywhere. So that was actually looking really nice. So what I did is I actually took one of the bolts, stuck it in the cover just so it can kind of drain right through. Had to walk away and go do a couple of other things. So, let's see where we are. So what I ended up doing is I ended up taking a bolt, basically sticking it in between the cover and just kind of left things free. And now you can go ahead and just take that bolt out of there. And then working up top, go ahead and get these out of here. And remember, we're getting rid of this cover, so this isn't anything that we're going to need after today. So the only things I am going to keep and transfer over to that new cover, obviously, are going to be my tags. So on the left and right, you've got tags basically telling you what your, so like this is the information tag, and this is making sure that you do put posi fluid in here, or a friction modifier as Ford calls it. So the bolts are in good shape. Buzz this last one off here real quick. So we'll go ahead and take that cover off. And the inside of the cover actually isn't that bad. I actually had expected, seeing all the oil residue that I did see on here, I was actually thinking that I would maybe see a compromise. But I'm not seeing any kind of compromise on that right there, so that's actually a good sign too. So from what I'm seeing, things look nice in there. Just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab a light and shine it up inside, see what we're looking at inside. That looks good. Garbage on there. I'm gonna get off. But we got some brake clean anyway. Get it all cleaned up and nice. Should keep the camera away. Scrape some of this gasket material off of here. It's not too bad. Just want to make sure as you're wiping this off, kind of want to wipe away from the inside there, because you don't want to push any contaminants inside, maybe on that lip edge where you can't see. Inside there. So I'm going to take a razor blade, and I'm going to razor blade this area, because we do have just a little bit of gasket material kind of in there. I want to go ahead and spray inside these holes. Make sure I get any garbage in there out. So obviously you got some fluid that kind of retains in these little channels here. You want to make sure that you get that out of there, because you're spraying your solvent in there, and you want to make sure that you get that out of there. Best thing to do is go ahead and grab a razor blade, and just go ahead and just kind of scrape any of the extra gasket material, and make sure you're scraping away from the gear set or inside this pumpkin, because you don't want any of this stuff to go inside. We'll give it a final spray anyway, but you just want to make sure that this surface is nice and clean. I'm going to take some paper towel and just kind of lay it inside here, just to keep any kind of contaminants, just to help keep contaminants out of there. This is the RTV that I'm using right there, Ultra Black. Is that backwards? I don't know. It probably reads right when it's recording, but for me it's backwards. Anyways, see if I can find something that's magnet. So what's nice about this new cover, like I was saying, it's magnetized. So you can see right there that there's a magnet inside. So when you see on the rear end, so this is basically how the rear end is on there. And then obviously the gear set is going like this. With the way that's working is it actually sloshes up and comes right across that magnet, the fluid, the way it kind of slings it, I guess you want to say, because that's actually where the gear set is on that side of the diff. So it's just a kind of a cool addition, I guess. Factory cover didn't have that. So now I'll just show you how I put the RTV on here. So on the RTV, on this, at least Permatex anyway, you can see that it's sealed by like an aluminum little overlay. And it's got a piercer kind of built in. Basically all you do is you just screw that piercer on like that, and it pierces the opening. And we're not even going to use this little spread thing here because it's not necessary. Just start in one area and just work your way around. Well, all you want to do is you want to make sure you just have a nice layer or a nice bead going around the entire thing. And the way I've done it is I've actually, kind of circled each one of these little fasteners. Now I'm just going to go over it with my finger, make sure we've got kind of like a consistent layer all the way around. Because this is the only thing between this cover and the outside elements or the inside elements getting out. And just take a light look inside. Make sure you ain't got no junk in there. Looks pretty good. Fairly cleaned out. Majority of it dried up. But that's one of the things you want to do too, is you want to make sure you give it time. Because if you don't give it time for that brake clean to get in there and evaporate, if you're just throwing oil in there and buttoning everything up, you're technically going to be mixing stuff. You don't want to mix your brake clean with that, because that would be no bueno. This isn't rocket science either. So don't be intimidated by this stuff. It's actually pretty easy. Before you put everything together, is just make sure you clean up your bolts. Just have a bolt ready. Basically just take your cover and you're going to pretty much just overlay it right into position pretty carefully. Grab one of your bolts, screw it in, grab another one, screw it in, and right now I'm just going to put these things basically, hand tight. Just throw each one in. I'm just going to take something and kind of Wipe this down a bit. I'm just going to run these in, just using, doing this by hand. And I am just going to do a staggered kind of cross pattern. It's just because that's just how I want to do it. And I'm just kind of like evenly going around, putting about the same torque on each one of these bolts. You'll be able to feel it. Just snugging them. Works for me. I bet you thought I forgot about these tags right here. I'm just prepping them for paint. Just gonna throw some of that Rust-Oleum self-etching primer on there, and then gonna hit it with some of this Rust-Oleum 2X black paint. Pro tip. These are the little insulation rods that you can buy. You get a whole package of them for next to nothing, and you just bend up the ends, and you always have parts holders. This is how I've done it for years. Just give them little touches. Good enough. Nothing major, it's just throwing some paint on them just to keep them nice.
One eternity later.
I wasn't gonna bore you with torque spec, but between 20 and 30, so 25 is where I've got this torque wrench set to. And again, I'm doing my star pattern all the way around. That one's a smaller size. Kind of lost me now. I have to go ahead and get that smaller size now. Probably now a standard socket. We're actually kind of already torqued down. I'll just kind of wipe up. We're done here. That's it. And on these torque wrenches, just make sure you always zero them out. If you've got the Ford limited slip rear end, or GM, obviously you need to put in some type of a friction additive or posi lube. So for Ford, there's actually a Motorcraft additive friction modifier. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to put that in first, just using my little pump that I've got. It's designed for 1 quart containers. And obviously cracking open the rear end. I'm going to grab a longer reach. It is a flex head. You don't have to use the flex head. But 3/8 drive, square drive, ratchet, or breaker bar, or whatever you want to use. I prefer to use a ratchet just because you can kind of get it into more positions than you could potentially a breaker bar. Then put your ratchet in there, and then just give it a crack open. Then just take your additive. I'm going to break that little seal open there. Put the tube in. Throw it inside the hole. And we'll just start pumping it in. I'm just going to leave it hanging for now. I'm just going to go grab the fluid that I got. And obviously, don't forget to clean off your plug. Now, one thing I will say is it does help, in my opinion, to have the fluid inside if it's cold out. That way it actually moves better. And I'm just going to pump it until basically it starts to weep out. And that's what I've got this paper towel down here for when it starts to do that. Alright, so we're finally there. Got enough fluid in there now. We're good. You just want to wait until it starts to weep out of the hole like it is right now. And then you know you've got enough in there. Take our plug. Screw that back in. And that's it. And just wipe up your mess. I just take the wheels, fuzz the wheels back on real quick. Big Black's wheels weigh a couple pounds. It's more the tires. The actual wheels themselves aren't too bad. Only thing I will say what's a pain about this little stupid socket thing is sometimes how long it actually takes to put stuff on. Because the way this goes, I swear I need like a damn magnet. I'm just actually going to grab one of my 100-pound torque sticks. Should be fine for these wheels. 100 pound. And obviously I've got wheel locks, which again, that's a pain in the neck because that's a different size. And what you want to do is, again, now that I'm all torqued up, just going to just give it a double check. Good to go. Done. Give it the bounce test. Nice. A nice hat head. If you like any of the videos that you're seeing from my channel, it's just kind of like whatever videos, mechanics, kind of doing whatever. But hit that subscribe button, click that like or thumbs up, and that'd be cool. Share it if you want. But it's just another video coming to you from What's Up Guy Garage. Thanks. Here's a pro tip, kind of out of sarcasm. If you have a wheel lock or a special socket that's designed for the lug nuts for your car or truck, tape it onto the socket so you don't freak out.